Guess who's back? Guess who's back? It's your boy, Joey Javelle, coming to you with Sincere Emotions Part 2. Oh yeah. Today I got a special guest with me today, you all. We're going to be talking about emotional triggers, which all of us got some. I know I got some, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you all that's listening got some as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let my guest introduce himself. Go ahead.
What's going on? This is Colby. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. Appreciate you for being on the show. I know all my listeners gonna appreciate it as well. So talk to us a little bit about emotional triggers.
I think emotional triggers happen like every day in your just regular, daily lives. It could be at work, relationships, your partner, friends, pretty much any situation you can really relate to it. And I think it's important to really dig down deep and realize what they are, because if you first of all, if you're not aware, you can't really navigate through your life. You can't be aware of what's happening. Things like tracing the roots, things kind of like loss of independence, betrayal, injustice, loss of, I think distractions are huge too. Just not getting hurt. So I don't know if you agree with me on that, but those are all things that you can really relate to. So.
Oh yeah, I've dealt with probably a lot of those, for sure. So where did you learn those techniques in regards to emotional triggers? Tell me this: do you know when you had your first emotional trigger?
I would say just growing up, my family being split up at a young age when I was around 10, I had to grow up really fast. And, moved out when I was 17, so I was exposed to real life really quick. I saw a lot of different friends come and go, friends pass away, family members. So those things triggered me, and behavior patterns I started to realize. And before, I never really had the consequences, if that makes sense. So now I can sit back and be rational about it.
Oh yeah. I've been there too. I've been in the same situation before as well. I do, like I said, have a few emotional triggers myself. But I'm now in a place, I guess I kind of know how to cope with them. Have you learned how to cope with them? And if you have, can you help our guests with, maybe a little bit of how they can cope with emotional triggers?
I think coping wise, it's really what works best for you. But I think number one, like I was describing before, is really just tracing the roots back to awareness and knowing like what it is first off that's bothering you. It could be, like I said, a partner. Let's say, for example, it's really big in relationships. It could be a marriage or just something as simple as like even a friendship, and just really knowing like what is bothering you. That's first off, and then rewiring and getting back to what the root cause of it is, and like the underlying issue is definitely key as well.
Right. Okay. All right, I appreciate that. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure Kobe and myself are not the only ones that's dealing with emotional triggers. I'm pretty sure somebody's gonna send me a message on one of my pages and tell me they're dealing with it. Actually, I want someone to do that. Send me a message on my Instagram. Let me know if you battle with emotional triggers as well. And if you do, let me know what it is that's bothering you with it. But back to Kobe. So when you say emotional triggers, for me, I don't know. The first thing gonna come to my mind when I say emotional triggers is I'm gonna just start thinking sad stuff. Like I'm gonna immediately like get sad in my feelings or something, like ready to cry. Is that what that would be considered as?
Yeah, anything that bothers you, or I don't want to say bother, that's not the right word. I would say it like affects you on an emotional level. So those things like the betrayal, I think it's best to be grateful of betrayal at the same time, because if those emotions were never a thing, you wouldn't be grateful for the good people in your life, and you would have those bad people still around you today. So I think it's definitely crucial, and it's also inevitable. There's like three things in life that are very uncertain, and three things you're never going to get around, and it's uncertainty, pain. We're always going to have pain, we're always going to have losses. Uncertainty, everyone likes that
Yes.
like certainty because we know what to expect day to day,
Right.
but you're never gonna, tomorrow's not promised. And then the third
Right.
thing would be constant work. We're always gonna be constantly working, whether it's on ourselves, with others, and always trying to grow. So
I can appreciate that. You're right. Because right now I'm in a situation where I'm still trying to grow to myself. I've come a long way. I've dealt with my emotional triggers. For me, I think things are looking a little different, which is in a good way. Because a lot of times not everybody can look at it in a good way. You know that there's so much stigma behind, of course, this mental health, right?
yeah, of course.
For me and my culture, of course, I will say there's a lot of stigma behind it for me. What about for you and your culture?
Well, health as well. So, for the longest time, I really wasn't keeping up and maintaining my mental health. And what do you think that led to? That led to breakdowns, loss of those relationships. And then most importantly, just loss of, I was out of touch with reality, like just depersonalization, not knowing who I actually was. And it's easy for people to really just keep nicking and picking at you as far as like, trigger wise. The word trigger, I don't even like to say trigger sometimes. I think influence is also a good word too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a good word for it, but we both know, I don't know why trigger is just a word to say, because sometimes you say the word trigger, it's like it triggers me at that moment. Just like when somebody say the word anxiety, I don't know why I immediately get anxiety.
You get anxiety.
Yeah, so.
Depression, I'm depressed.
Right. The moment you talk about it, there it goes, like, dang, you just got to talk to me about depression. Now I'm depressed. What is going on? So I thought I was the only one that felt that way. Now, what are some other things that my listeners need to know about emotional triggers?
I think as far as emotional triggers go, once you're aware of the patterns in your behaviors, you can actually start to work on them. And, new expectations come about, and you just keep setting the standard higher for like the quality of people you want in your life and the quality of things, not even just on a material level, but like spirituality wise too. I don't know if you agree on that, but like, what do you think as far as like, do you have any like times in the past where you were definitely triggered and somebody like, not to play like the victim role or anything, but do you think, has there ever been a time where somebody's definitely influenced you to act a certain way, or like it could be like self-destructive behavior or things that you knew you had to work through, like an obstacle you had to overcome?
Oh yeah, I done had plenty of those. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Yeah, I have had quite a few obstacles put in front of me that I had to overcome. And to be truthful, probably like 3 of them I was in a suicidal situation, so I wasn't really trying to overcome that obstacle, but I ended up overcoming it after the attempts. Some of the obstacles were harder than others, but I'm glad that I was able to get through those obstacles. I'm still working on those obstacles. It's a journey, so it's a process that you don't stop working. Some people think that, okay, once I get over this one obstacle, I'm done. And for a minute I was that way too. Like, okay, shoot, I already did that part. Like, dang, how long am I gonna have to go through this? It's like, how long am I gonna have to go through this? And so then you find yourself in another obstacle. You're like, dang, what's going on? Like, I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, And after you get across that 5th obstacle, for me, I know, you start to realizing and seeing things different. Like you said, it's more about reprogramming your brain. Basically rewiring it. That's how I feel about it, and that's what I have to do. Basically rewire it. Like every day I wake up, I tell myself, "You got this." That's how I start my day. You got this. Other than that, I'll be dealing with some more emotional triggers, of course.
And I think as far as, this might sound corny, but like personality really does create your personal reality, like the way you perceive things. And once you can actually see that things happen for you and not against you, you get out of that negative loop and that negative self-talk, and you can really just start to, like, the way you think about things, you can really just manifest what you want in life. And like what you said about like rewiring your brain, it's actual like neuroscience. If I keep telling myself I'm going to do something, I'm actually going to do it. If I keep telling myself I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
So
yeah, that happens a lot. A lot of people need to know that too. That do happen a whole lot. You like, man, I can't do that. I can't do that. Yep, you tell yourself you can't do it, you can't do it. You know
Exactly.
what I'm saying? Oh, I ain't doing that. I'm not doing that. Okay, well, you said you're not doing it, so you're not gonna do it. Bottom line, and that's the same thing. I feel like that happens when um, someone get triggered or something. You know, it's like I be trying to tell my triggers, no, no, no. You about to make me get anxiety. And as soon as I say that, there go that anxiety. I'm like, dang. But I learned to kind of reprogram it and just be like, you got this. So I don't have to keep, dealing with the whole thing that you have to deal when you're dealing with anxiety. So I normally just tell myself, you got this. What are some of the things that you do, when you get triggered?
I just really tend to I'd say look for distractions and just find something to just get me out of my own way, my own thinking. And like a perfect example is there's always going to be times where people might try to look better than you in front of other people. That's really relatable in a lot of scenarios, and you got to be aware, right? What emotions come about: anger, you're frustrated, you're anxious. That might give you a little bit of like sadness because when it's somebody random, it's easier to say, oh, like I don't really give a shit about that. But when it's someone that genuinely means something to you, that's gonna hit more on the nail. But once you can actually like realize those emotions and that they are bothering you, then you can work through them. If you're not aware of the way you feel, acting out of emotion can really cost you everything in a lot of different situations.
Oh man, okay, I agree with you on everything you said, man, for sure. Now tell me this: have you ever had to get any assistance, like for your mental health? Like, have you ever had to ask for help?
Yeah, so I think the biggest stigma too is people like to say like the reason why it's called recovery and not recovered is like you said, it's a lifelong process, and I have had help.
Yep.
I at a young age from like 18 to 21 in and out of jail, those are my consequences. Did that for a little bit, realized that's not the life for me like anyone, and I didn't know what was on the other side of that. All the problems that came with it: anxiety, depression, SI, suicidal ideations. And then all of a sudden there was a point, I come from also an addiction background, and I think mental health and addiction really go hand in hand. Before the addiction, my situation was mental health is what caused it, right? And then when I was done with the addiction recently this past year, what did I have left to deal with? Mental health. So I think mental health is really everything, and I had to really dig deep, and I always looked at asking for help as vulnerability was a weakness. And I'm glad if it wasn't for me checking myself in and getting help. I went through treatment now 3 times in the past year and a half, 15 months, just in and out of detoxes, residentials, 8 months of outpatient, you name it. I did all that, and overcame homelessness, loss of jobs, friends dying to suicide, overdoses. My family left me, when I was 17. I had to move out on my own. So I really had to face these things for myself. And if you don't get help for yourself and it's for someone else, it's never going to work,
Yep.
So.
I agree with you, man. Thank you so much for sharing that too. There's a lot of people needed to hear that. So thank you so much for letting my listeners hear that. I too, as well. I don't know if you know, came from a dysfunctional family as well. Never had my mom in my life as much. Don't know who my father is right now. So my mental health kind of started at an early age too, as well. I used to think I never knew anything about anxiety. I didn't know what anxiety was until 2018 when I checked myself into the first treatment center back in 2018. Before that, I used to smoke marijuana like it was just candy. So yeah, I wasn't waking up. I wasn't going to sleep. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't going nowhere unless I was high. I didn't even care where I was going. So I did that for a while, not knowing that I was using that as a coping skill for my anxiety. So like you said, mental health does play a part with substance abuse as well. So that part is absolutely correct. So I had my little times in my phase where I went through all of that too as well. So now, what is your, for me, I feel like everybody in this world should have a therapist. I don't care who you is. you know. And of course, we have that stigma. Everybody has that stigma, like you said. Getting help do make you seem weak or vulnerable. You know, I thought that for a while, but I'm glad now I don't feel that way because I don't care. I don't mind telling who I need help. Hey, I need help. You know, I feel even better now knowing that it's okay to ask for help. You know, so I believe that everyone out there should have a therapist. Like everyone. What is your thought about that?
Yeah, so as far as therapy goes, my standpoint is just to make it plain and simple, therapists have therapists. Right. Everyone needs help, and that's crazy to think about. So when I tell myself I don't need therapy, or I don't need, even on a level of me talking to a friend can't really, maybe they don't have the credentials or this and that, but therapists see all different types of scenarios. You know, there's psychology behind giving advice. And I think therapy is definitely beneficial to anyone. And I never believed in it for the longest, but I think as far as therapy goes, just it's also like trial and error, finding the right one that actually clicks. It's like looking for a Tinder date, right? Like, this one might be good. I don't like this restaurant. Let's go to the next one. Yes. But finally, when you click, and it's really good to get that connection and don't give up right away, because it's also not going to happen overnight. So I know you can probably relate, right, to as well, as far as finding the right fit for you, because it's not a one size shoe like fits all, you know.
Yep. Man, that is true. Yeah. That's the one thing I say is probably the hardest of. That was like my hardest process of getting help, was finding a therapist. Getting help, all that was cool. Getting a psychiatrist, all that is cool. You know, going through the treatment was cool. You know, learning stuff was cool. But it was just that, it was that therapist. You know, because the therapist, you got to vibe with him. Like, y'all got to be on the same page. And if y'all not on the same page, somebody's upset. You know, somebody's upset and somebody's mad because they feel like they're not getting what they're supposed to be getting. So, just so y'all know, that is a normal feeling. If you ever went to one and you was like, no, I told y'all that wasn't going to work. No, it's probably just that therapist is not going to work. You know what I'm saying? And find another one. Because like you said, therapists have a therapist. For y'all that don't know, everybody needs a therapist. That does not make you weak. Everybody needs somebody to talk to. You know, there comes some times when you feel like you're a burden to your family or your friends. You don't want to have nobody to talk to. That's how a lot of people have committed suicide, because they thought they had no one to talk to. Well, if you get a therapist, you always got someone to talk to. You can always give them a call at pretty much, most of them are going to say at any time, give them a call. They want you to, especially something like that, you know. I'm trying to find me another one at this present moment, though. Man.
Same here. I'm always looking for, see, me, I don't get too content. I'm always looking for something better, but once something clicks in my life, I'm going to ride it out for a little bit. And I think also, aside from therapy, you made a good point, like psychiatrist is good too. I'm not saying everyone needs meds, but it's also, the meds aren't really the solution. I never believed before this, the underlying issues is the reason why you need the meds in the first place. But some of us have like a chemical imbalance. I understand that from that standpoint, but some of these meds are really just a bandage in a way. So you got to really take care of yourself, you know, get the therapy, take the meds, do the work, get a good job, put all the pieces together, bring positive people around in your life that are going to uplift you and bring value, not bring you down. We all are going to go through phases, but yeah, I think it's definitely to have all those things in abundance, and not just have all of your eggs in one basket with just therapy, because a therapist is going to give you the tools to succeed in your life, but they're not going to do the work for you. They're going to show you the blueprint, but you got to be able to put in the work. So
yeah, most definitely you're going to have to put in some work. I'm telling you right now. And also another thing is, don't go to a therapist and expect that they're going to fix you. It is not their job to fix you. Can't nobody fix you. You cannot be fixed, okay? Let's make that clear. Don't expect them to fix you. They just going to ask you to put in some work. And technically, really, a therapist really just going to listen to you. You know what I'm saying? So don't get them confused when it comes to counselors and therapists. Those are two different outlets. You know, a counselor does a completely different job than a therapist. So if you try counseling and it wasn't for you, that does not mean don't try therapy. Try therapy as well, because counseling basically is, they pretty much just telling you what to do. You know, they're not listening. They really just telling you what to do. With therapists, they're probably just gonna listen to you and maybe give you an assignment to go home with. So I personally, I don't know about you, but when I go to my therapy, I'm gonna be honest, I take off shoes, I get comfortable, I take off my hats, I take off whatever I can take off, I'm taking it off. And if it's a couch, I'm getting on the couch, I'm gonna lay out flat, I'm getting real comfortable, laying my head back like I'm in a bed, and I just go at it. I don't know about you. Did you get that comfortable with your therapist?
Yeah, I think once again that goes to that rapport and that connection with them and finding the right fit. But if you're talking about some real deep things that you might not even want to share, it's all confidential. So you want to feel at home, like that shit is your home. This is my couch. These are my shoes. I'm taking my shoes off. So like, and I think it's interesting because I think people just get nervous at first. I can relate to the first time I had therapy about 2 years ago. I just thought like, damn, this person's judging me. They don't know shit. They just got a degree. I'm unique. I'm not like them. I'm him. You know what I mean? I'm different. But then when I realized like I'm just another client and I could just really sit there and share some really dark, you know, maybe not always negative things I want to say, but like at the end of the day, when you go to therapy, you're laying all that stuff out on the table, but you got to realize too, just because you got it out and you spilled some things, you still take that home with you. So those things that you share, definitely, you know, vent to a friend, tell your therapist, but when you take it home at night, you want to work on it and definitely show gratitude. And I think that's huge because I think some people tend to think you just get stuff out and it's gone. Like I told them the secret, it's dead. It's dead. No, it's not dead. It's just you're actually processing it finally. And I don't know about you, like what is your standpoint on like, I think we were talking about like suicide earlier, and I know it's been a part of, you know, my story too as well. A few of my best friends, you know, believe it or not, have committed suicide. My ex-girlfriend, her brother, you know, had a really bad acid trip, was addicted to cocaine and killed himself, and it's really unfortunate. No, it's okay. It's really hurtful, but I think it's also, it makes you stronger. And I really, you know, wish that anybody, we talked about this, you know, about a week ago, that they just reach out. I'd rather you not be a burden, right? And like we spoke about, and just talk about what's on your mind, because you never know what somebody is going through. They can put up this shield and you don't know what's going on up in here. And my shit is like a blender sometimes. I feel like I throw all these problems and all this bad fruit in there, and it just starts getting chopped up, and then I gotta slow it down sometimes and remove the bad fruit and put good fruit. And I know that sounds weird, but I think
to me.
Yeah,
not to
it
me.
makes sense though. You know?
Yeah. Oh yes, man. You just hit a lot of them for me right there. Yeah. I, of course, like you said, I had my experiences, of course, with attempts, and the main thing is a lot of times, I don't know why, the thing that going through your head in the midst of it, because me myself, I've had a cousin-in-law whose son committed suicide. I have a best friend. Her son committed suicide. Thank you for that. And I know as a parent, that's something that I don't know how they doing it, you know, but I sometimes just wonder like what goes through, you know, the person's head when they're getting ready to do it. Well, since I tried to do it, and I am a prime example of what I did, you know, it was like, dang, I don't want to call nobody. I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't think nobody's going to understand me. You know, I feel like I'm a burden. And then sometimes when you call people, and they'll say, like, I'm going through this stuff. I'm going through all my stuff. You know, they going through whatever they going through, but afraid to share what they going through, you know. And so once you get to hearing all of that, or people tell you go to church or just pray about it, you know, once you start hearing all of that, it just comes to the point where you like, you know what? None of these is gonna work for me. Let me just go ahead and do this and get it out of my. I know when I tried though, as soon as I did do it, I was like, oh fuck, damn. I was like, God, I don't want to die. I don't know why I did it. I promise, I don't know why I did it. I was just everywhere. I was hallucinating really, really bad. It had got really bad just last time because I didn't know what happened. I just woke up in the hospital.
And it happens that fast, right?
Man.
And you think about it, it's like, you said a good point. You feel like you can't talk to somebody, and in that moment you're just so many thoughts, right, are just
Yes.
going. It's like a hamster in a wheel. Just things are going so fast, and it's not that you don't want to be here anymore, and
Right.
and you don't. It's not that you don't want to live. You just don't want to live miserable. I can relate to
Yes.
that, and I've definitely had a few suicide attempts, and I haven't really shared that too much, but I've had overdoses. Believe it or not, my
Sorry,
first
yeah,
time in
yeah.
treatment last year, I tried to strangle myself, and
man.
somebody walked in on me, and by the grace of God, I was embarrassed, but I was better off embarrassed than dead. You know what I mean?
Man,
So
you
I'm
said
grateful
that.
for that tech that walked in and actually helped me out and let me know that if I do commit suicide, how is that going to affect? I don't really have much family, but the family I do have left, it's like I'm taking them with me. I'm doing a selfish act, and I never really thought how suicide until I got affected by it. I didn't really see. I thought it was just me.
Just
Like
you.
this is my life, you know.
Yep.
So
Yep, and that's you right about that. You don't realize at that time you don't realize like you hurt other people. At that moment, all you think about is you. You're like, I'm gonna be okay. They're gonna be glad. Now everybody's gonna be good. Now that I'm gone, everybody's gonna be good. Not knowing, man, how many people we would hurt if that. Like,
yeah,
it's amazing when you find out. Thank God, that none of our attempts went through. We was one of the ones that made it through. Thank God for that.
we're
Because
walking miracles,
man.
So.
And that's why I don't mind sharing. I don't mind, letting the word out there, putting the word out there, because trust me, a lot of these kids most definitely are dealing with it now. You know what I'm saying? And the rate for suicide has went up tremendously high, And so that's one of the things that we, as parents, have to start paying attention to as well. Like, your child may not want to talk because they may feel a burden. Don't tell your child you got so much going on and you got this going on and you got that going on and you don't have time to talk to them. No, try to make whatever time you can for your kids, for your family, your friends. Just check on people. Sometimes all it takes is just a text. You know what I'm saying? Because I personally, myself, bro, I have learned how to fake smile I'm 40, so I've learned how to fake smile for 39 years. You know what I'm saying? I've learned how to put on a pretend person, like I can turn this person on and off at any moment, like in the inside, I used to be hurting so damn bad, bro. But on the outside, oh man, you would think I was just the happiest, just the uppest, most crunkiest, you would just think I was just a dude, just like doing everything right. I could get dressed, you wouldn't even be able to tell nothing. But not knowing, man, at one point in time, I was living in a storage room. And I mentioned that before in season 1 of my podcast, too. I've had my moments of working 3 jobs and living in a storage room, man. But go to work and be dressed up to people would never know. They would just be like giving you compliments on how I'm dressed and everything. Like, look, I look good, like, dang, you smell good. Not even knowing that I was standing in the storage room with my clothes and going to another store washing my ass and stuff. You know what I'm saying? For real. Not even knowing, or some days I would go to the job extra early and use the gym shower at the job and, change clothes and stuff. Sometimes I even had to sleep under my work desk,
100%.
Yeah. So it is a process, and here it is that I'm 40, about to be 41, and in a treatment center, you know what I'm saying, currently. So it's a process, there's nothing wrong with treatment centers, you know what I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with going to them. One thing I will say is make sure that you do go to the right one, because I don't know for you, but for me, I've had bad experiences with 2 of them, you know what I'm saying?
Same story with me, and I think you made a good point. It's the right one, and also know that, like we started talking about in the beginning of this podcast, that's not gonna really cure you either. I know so many friends that have been in and out of treatment, in and out, and just make sure that if you do go, that it's easier said than done because you get so comfortable in an uncomfortable environment that you don't get institutionalized. And I think a lot of us come from different backgrounds, and if you're not self-sufficient and getting what you want out of it, just make sure that while you're in that bubble of treatment that you take advantage of the things you were talking about, the therapy, the medications, the daily routine, because once you get out of there, it's more important what you do on the outside, because you're not going to have that accountability anymore. Right. And you want to maintain all that that aftercare, you know, keeping up with your doctor's appointments, with your
Yeah,
therapy, and just really creating a life that's worth living and living life on life's terms. And I think, you know, life in general, it sounds cliche too, but I made this up. I think life is really like kind of like day trading. You know, you get these dips. I know you can probably, you know, resonate with this. You have these dips where things just seem so low. You know, you might hit your bottom, and sometimes like I can learn from other people's experiences, and you know, I don't need to hit my bottom. I can, you know, I can get saved by their experience, and that's why I try to be impactful on other people and be of service to others, because if you can invest in yourself in those dips and those bottoms, you'll be able to experience those all-time highs. And don't cash out either, like crypto or anything. This ain't Bitcoin,
right.
but so just hold. It's a long-term hold, like you said. It's a lifelong process. So invest in yourself in the dips, and just hold on to that shit. And one day you will keep experiencing all those all-time highs. And I think that's definitely a good point.
Oh yeah, that's most definitely a good point. I appreciate you for that one. I needed to hear that one myself. Yeah, that was a good one there. Before we wrap things up, man, is there anything else out there that you want someone to know? Because both of us, I know our job is to reach out and touch just, I don't care if it's one person. You know what I'm saying? Just spread the word. That person can spread another word, you know. What would you like to say most definitely that somebody needs to hear?
Just don't hesitate to reach out. You know, whether it's one of us even, you know, the podcast, you know, you could shoot us a message on the page or whatever, leave comments, subscribe to the podcast, but just really build a support system, because isolation and loneliness is the number one killer. It's not even the alcohol, it's not the other things, the medications, the controlled substances. It's really just loneliness. You know, misery loves misery. And I think really, if I could say one thing, just whatever you're going through, just keep going. Don't give up. There's a life worth living. You know, I didn't think this way before, but I would never try to take my own life. I would never try to take somebody else's life, because life is a beautiful thing. And I think it's just crazy how, you know, mental health, you know, as far as like taking care of yourself and just really like self-care is huge too. But yeah, you know, the good thing to give you guys some faith, and I had to tell myself this recently, if you're still here today, you've overcome, not even shit 100%, you've overcome 1,000% of the things that have happened to you. So, and we come from all different situations, so that should give you something to hold on to and look forward to.
I appreciate that, man. Wow. Okay. So he can touch me too. Oh man, yeah, that was a good message right there. I really, really, really appreciate that, man. I know all of my listeners gonna appreciate you too. You know, thank you so much
Thanks
for
for
showing
having
up.
me.
Thank you so much for showing out. We'll probably do something again later on, you know, because I know you got other projects that you're gonna probably be working on soon too as well. So you're gonna have to come back on and, you know, let us know what you got going on, you know, spread the word and everything. I hope everybody out there enjoyed today's episode. This is season 2, first episode. Yo, let's go.